Welcome to Confessions by Banana Ketchup. A winged man watched over me. When I was little, I would frequently wake up in the middle of the night, almost always under sleep paralysis. The times I wasn't paralyzed, I would try to go to my parents, but they often didn't like when I bothered them, so that eventually stopped. I would go pet our big fluffy German Shepherd instead. This worked wonders, and I'd always go back to bed content again. The times I was paralyzed though, I couldn't do much. It freaked me out, and I would be terrified for however long it took for me to either break out of it or fall asleep again. It felt like something was sitting on my chest, which is a common feeling for sleep paralysis, I'm finding. But to kid me, I had no idea, and it scared me half to death. But one night, there was a man in the room. A light blue transparent glowing figure with big wings, which sounds silly, I know, but the pressure on my chest would be gone. I was still paralyzed, but I wasn't afraid or even uncomfortable. He didn't have hair or a face, just featureless energy. He was just like a ghost, a soft outline of a person. First time I saw him, he didn't have the wings. He stood at the back of the room and just watched me. That scared me too at first, a weird glowing figure that was just in the corner of my eye, since I couldn't move my head while paralyzed. But the lack of pressure, the lack of any sudden movements from him, the calmness and quiet glow made me think otherwise. When I broke out of paralysis, I tried to look at him better and he was gone. I started looking forward to being paralyzed just to see him again. I'd see him a few more times. At first, he was just standing in the back of the room. Then he'd move around a little, then a decent amount. Like every time he visited, he got more curious about the room itself. He eventually even showed up sitting on the side of the bed next to me, just looking at me. This was when I could see his wings for the first time. Even though I couldn't move or talk, I felt safe with him around. He mellowed out my then overwhelming fear of the dark. He never touched me or moved my stuff, just walked around and looked at the things in my room or stared at me until I fell asleep. I'd try to stay up, to look at him better, to talk to him, but I'd always eventually feel so calm I'll just sleep again. I eventually stopped seeing him as I grew up and stopped having sleep paralysis. I've only seen him one other time, a few years ago. It was shortly after I'd survived a school shooting. So many people died. I felt like I should have died instead of any of them. I kind of still do, but fresh, it was an awful, new, terrifying feeling. I felt alone. I woke up with the first sleep paralysis in years, and he was there, standing in the back of the room, wings and all. He kind of shuffled there for a bit, then he walked up and sat down next to me on the bed, just watching me like he's always done. I felt peace at that time where I thought I'd never feel it again. I fell asleep. I've yet to see him or have sleep paralysis since. Logical me thinks I just made an imaginary childhood friend for myself. He was the same color as the moonlight in my room, though he could walk in and out of the moonlight. And I have no physical or video evidence, just my memories of him. Maybe the new low I was in just brought a need for him one last time. Maybe I just felt like a kid again and imagined something to comfort me. But a part of me likes to believe he's still out there, helping people. Maybe it's his job or purpose. Maybe it's just a hobby of his. Does he only come to me or to whoever needs him? I remember calling him Angel once I saw his wings because he was pretty close to how people describe such. I've never been religious, but it's a nice thought to think he and maybe others like him show up just to be there for people who are scared and lonely. Part of me hopes he still watches over me. Thank you, ArtsyCats, the author. Something that looked like my mother, but wasn't. This is one of my many paranormal experiences, but this one has been haunting me for years, and I feel the need to share it. Also, English is not my first language, sorry in advance. It happened 9 years ago when I was just a 13-year-old kid. Before I tell you what happened, you need to understand the layout of my former house. We moved out. Imagine the letter T and the inverted version of it, then join them together at the vertical line. The vertical line is the hallway, and there are 2 rooms at the top facing each other. At the bottom, there is one bedroom and the bathroom facing each other, and there is my room between them facing the hallway. I always had a sleeping problem, so I was wide awake at 3 AM. I was watching the dark hallway like I usually do when I couldn't sleep. But on that particular night, I was more restless and felt like something was very wrong. The feeling of uneasiness sat in the pit of my stomach. It was like I was waiting for something horrifying to happen, and it was inevitable. While my unease was getting stronger and stronger and I could feel pain stemming from dread, I suddenly saw my mom walking out of the bedroom and towards the bathroom area. I was overcome with relief. I even heard the noise of the bathroom door handle. It was old and loose, so it made a jingling sound. I got up and out of the bed to talk to her so that I could calm down. But when I walked past the door frame and saw that the bathroom area was completely empty, I was frozen in place. Words can't even describe the horror I felt. I had goosebumps all over my body. I also felt like cold water was splashed down my head. I stood there, unable to turn my back to the dark hallway, and glanced at the bedroom. My mom and dad were sleeping peacefully, unaware of what just happened to me. Somehow, I found the strength to walk back to my bed, got under the covers while shaking from fear. I don't remember falling asleep. Maybe I passed out from fear. Even to this day, even after 9 years, I'm sure what I saw was identical to my mom. Her curly and shiny black hair was what made me feel sure it was my mom. What I failed to realize was that my mom don't have a completely white set of pajamas, and that thing was wearing it. As I've said in the beginning, this is just one of many things that happened to me in that house, and it's not limited to that place. It's like something always follows me. Even my sister witnessed it happen 2 or 3 times. I have no idea though. Thank you, CrystalDemise, the author. Possible Skinwalker experience. Just sharing my story. This is a true story that happened to me when I was around 11. I was home alone with my older brother and sister. My parents weren't home. I can't remember where they went, but it's not important. My sister was in her bedroom and my brother was on his computer a couple rooms away. I was in the living room by myself. We have a lot of dogs, but for some reason only one of them was outside. I don't remember what led up to me going outside to let her in, but I think it was about to start raining or something. Our garage leads to our backyard, so I go into the garage and out to the yard. So I'm standing in the doorway. I don't see my dog anywhere. Our yard is 2 acres, so I thought nothing of it. I step a little further out the doorway and look for her. Her name is Chloe. That will be important to the story in a minute. We have this big concrete block outside the garage doorway, acting as a sort of step, as our garage is slightly elevated. I step out the doorway, now standing on the concrete, and call out her name, Chloe. I don't see her. This was very unusual for her, as she's a very sweet and energetic dog and always comes running when she so much as sees you. She would always come when called. I call her name again, but I still don't see or hear her. I'm slightly confused at this point, but then I hear clapping, like clapping you do when you're calling a dog. I stiffen slightly. It sounds like it's coming from the side of the house. After it stops, I slowly step off the concrete block and into the grass and look at the side of the house where I had heard the clapping. There was no one there. None of our neighbors were even outside. I was really scared at this point. The clapping was so clear, there was no way I could have imagined it. I take a step back, closer to the concrete, ready to make a run for it. I call out for my dog one more time, not wanting to leave her out there. Chloe. A couple seconds later, the clapping starts back up again. I'm terrified at this point. I don't have any clue what this is. Then I hear a man's voice. I'm a girl, so it couldn't have been an echo, very clearly saying my dog's name, Chloe. It sounded like it was coming from the field by my yard. I didn't recognize the voice. I had heard each of my neighbors speak before, and that was definitely not any of them. It sounded decently close by, but far enough away that I knew I wasn't in any immediate danger. The voice sounded almost mocking, like it was making fun of me. It was as if the voice was amused by my obvious fear and was mocking me. Only a few seconds after I hear the voice, Chloe comes running up to me from the other side of the yard. I would have been able to see her. I grab her and run inside and lock the door behind me. I sit on the couch in the living room, scared out of my mind. My sister's still in her room and my brother's still on his computer. I was alone in the room, except a few dogs, and trying to make sense of what just happened. After a while, my parents got home and I tell my family what happened. No one believed me. The only person who even remotely believed me was my mom, clearly seeing how distressed I was about the whole thing. If I had to guess, I would say it was a skinwalker, but all I know for sure was that was scary. If you guys like this story and want to hear more, I've got plenty more paranormal experiences to tell. However, out of all my paranormal experiences, this is the one I'm most adamant about. Thank you, EmmaLouise, the author. Thank you for watching, everyone. If you already haven't, subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any new episodes. See you again soon, and until then, please, be safe.